What is up, guys? Back finally with another video. I know it's been a minute. I think I, like other creators, all go through the same thing of having issues of one being motivated to create content, but also two just having a block of what to create content about. But nevertheless, I'm back again, and no better time than the first day of the new year, and to talk about my thoughts and just dating in Medellin in 2025. Now, a lot of what I'm going to say in this video doesn't just apply to Medellin specifically, it's going to apply to Colombia as a whole for the most part. A lot of things in this video I'm just going to talk about are going to be some things like cons of dating in Medellin or in Colombia, some of the pros as well, but I definitely do want to cover a lot more of the cons in this video because, in my opinion, there are a lot of them. It's one thing I don't think a lot of people who cover Medellin or dating in Medellin really talk about. It's more so just the good, but in this video, I definitely want to cover a lot of the bad things that you can expect because although dating in Colombia or in Medellin can be good, like I said, it does have a lot of bad to it. So let's talk about it. So, starting off with number one, and I think one of the biggest cons here is definitely going to be flakiness. It's one thing you have to deal with, and this is just a Colombia thing. It's not solely a Medellin thing. I've talked to guys from all different backgrounds, races, ethnicities, and everyone all deals with the same thing. So, dating here, you will have to plan at least 2 or 3 dates in advance, just in case one does flake or two do flake, you at least have a backup. It's something that's unavoidable. Maybe, if you spend more time talking to them, over the phone or something like that, it can be a little bit more, you may lower the percentage of getting flaked on, but in general, everyone does it. People flake on people here, that they're friends. So definitely something that's just inevitable. It's something you will have to deal with. It can be annoying, but it's just part of the culture. So getting into the next con, and this is definitely a major one, and I would say it's definitely something that will be a deal breaker for a lot of guys. But if you're the type that does not want to be a stepdad to another man's child or waste your time and resources and energy into raising someone else's child, Medellin and just in general, Colombia is not going to be the country for you. When I looked it up and researched it, it's about 80% of women in Medellin, or not just Medellin, but Colombia, that are single mothers. And I've talked about this in other videos, but out of 10 women, 8 of them are going to have kids, and some of them multiple kids. A big reason why I think this is just in general here in Colombia for a long time, there was very poor sex education, abortions were not legal, and just also here as well. I mean, this could be a pro or a con for, whoever is, however you perceive this, but there's also a lot of unprotected sex that goes on here in not just Medellin, but Colombia. So since I've been here, what I've noticed is that there aren't a lot of girls who are pressing about using protection, which also is another con, is that, I don't know what the STD rate is here in Medellin, but I can imagine it should be at a fairly high percentage because in the experience that I've had, as I said, I've not had many girls that have pressed as far as using condoms. So going into, you're about to, do the do to start getting into the action. And I've tested a couple times. I have the condoms in my drawer next to the bed. And just to see if, they're going to ask, I'll, start and not even reach for a condom or nothing, and there's no objection. So definitely, um, that's a con. I've actually have friends that have gotten burned. So that's another thing. When you come here, definitely wrap it up. I know it's tempting not to, but definitely wrap it up because, like I said, I have friends who've gotten burned. So definitely got to be careful. But another big con out here. Um, but this is going into what I'm talking about as far as single mothers. A reason why I think it is that there are so many single mothers out here is because of the, you know, for many years there's been a lack of good sex education. Also, too, just protection isn't used very much here. Abortion wasn't really made legal, I think, until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. So that wasn't an option. And then also, too, the last part of this I'm going to say is probably just religious beliefs of women here being very um, religious. So, not believing in aborting. So, another big con, most of the women you deal with here will have kids. It's just a given fact. I think that's in general with Latinas, but in other countries, I'm not going to say so much the States, but definitely it's a very common thing you deal with when you're dealing with Latinas. And then also just some of the stuff you deal with women who have kids is something that definitely surprised me. I don't really like to deal with women that have kids, at least not for a serious relationship. I will date them, and some of them are fine as hell out here in Medellin, and they're gonna make you consider being a stepdad. But like I said, if you're not trying to waste that time and energy into raising another man's child, it's just not something that's going to be for you. And then also too, I do know it is a goal for a lot of women, or it's their ultimate goal would be to have two different men that's providing for their child. So a lot of women out here will leave their kids at home alone to go on dates if they don't have a babysitter, which is, maybe it's just a cultural thing. Also, I've seen as well that, yeah, so, you'll get that where women will just leave their kids at home alone to go out on dates. Not, fully overnight by themselves, but if it's just something for a few hours, they definitely will leave their kids at home alone. It's going to be looks. Now, not in a bad way where women here are ugly. Women here are extremely beautiful, but you do have to understand that definitely in Medellin, because at one point there used to be a narco culture here that a lot of women that look good, they're pretty much all, or a large percentage of them, I'm going to say 90%, are trying to monetize those looks for, if not money, or opportunities. And opportunities, I mean by vacations, trips, money, whatever it may be. They are they've learned, and I've had a friend here who is fluent in English, who have two very successful parents, who had a good education, speaks English and Spanish. And she told me when she was younger, a lot of her friends' parents of who had daughters would basically tell them that they would have to always look good and dress nice and basically be on top of their appearance so that they could attract basically a narco guy. And at that time, this is the people who had the money and who would be spoiling the women out here. And once narco culture left, gringo culture basically has replaced that. So women are getting their vacations and everything else from foreigners or from men basically that are coming here. Now, like I said, women are big on their appearance here. You will see some of the best women you will find will be in the gyms. Now, not every woman here is a 10. Uh, you know, I think a lot of us just hear, oh, Medellin, some of the best looking women in the world there or are here, but you will find a lot of just average girls here, girls who are sixes, sevens, some are fives. I mean, you really find everything here. I think once you get past the wow factor of being in Medellin and you've been here for a while, don't get me wrong, women are still beautiful. They're just not as beautiful when you first land and you're just seeing all these, cute girls. Now, are a lot of girls here, you know, the average girl attractive? I would say attractive to a slightly below attractive, but not everywhere you walk in, you're just seeing eights, nine, eight, nines, and tens. And I'm being very on this scale of eight, nine, and 10. I'm using this more as like women who are just world class, beautiful, not just the average girl you see and oh yeah, she's an eight. So, um, like I said, this can be a pro or a con, but in general, this is something you have to deal with if you do want to go after the more beautiful women here. Like I said, the eights, nines, and tens. A lot of these girls, as I said, they are trying to monetize their looks. Also, one thing I've noticed just from doing a lot of cold approach is that a lot of these girls that are really, really beautiful, they have boyfriends. So, most of these girls are not really going to be single. They're not available. I would say this is a term that I use a lot is hypothetical options. Medellin definitely has a lot of that. And what I mean by hypothetical options is it's a lot of women that, you think you could be dating or you think that are available, but in reality, they're not. Either you may not be their type or they have a boyfriend or whatever else it is that may make them unavailable. They're not dating in the moment because they're trying to focus on their career or whatever they have going on in their lives at the moment. But it is something that you do have a lot here. Now, as far as appearance, like I said, a lot of the women here will look amazing, but you do have to keep that in mind that a lot of women here, one, understand that they look good. So you're not going to come here and think like, oh, hey, I'm a foreigner. Just because I'm a foreigner, I'm going to be able to get the best looking women here and here in Medellin or just in general in Colombia. And these women don't know that they're pretty. They have a lot of foreigners that are telling them that every day here. They have Colombian men that are telling them that. And then also as well, through social media, they have a bunch of guys online who are telling them that. Now, what also comes with great, looks or appearances is that what you are competing with is a lot of men who are either coming from the United States or the UK or from whatever country that have a lot of disposable income, and what they're doing is that they are simping for women here in Medellin or just Colombia in general and giving these women money and gifts and things, and they're not really getting much in return, which brings me into what the next con is for Medellin, Colombia, is that simp culture has made its way here. Now, every year, Colombia, or let's just say Medellin, gets more popular and more popular. It's just bringing more foreigners every year. I think last year there was maybe something between 8 and 12 million people that passed through Medellin. This obviously both is men and women, but I would say a larger percentage of that number is going to be men. And with that, it's just bringing more. Basically Medellin is becoming more saturated, and if you are looking for a woman who is, I would say a more normal Colombian woman, you definitely would have to go to the smaller cities or regions like the coffee region, cities like Pereira, Manizales, Alemania, I believe is how you say it, or Barranquilla, Santa Marta, just not the major cities like, Cartagena or Medellin. Um, is it impossible to find good girls here in Medellin? No, you definitely can. I've run into a lot of them. So I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it is a huge numbers game here. Which, I mean, in general for men, it's a numbers game in general, but here it feels like even more. So, but going back into what I'm talking about here as far as simp culture, is that you get men that are coming here that are in their 60s, or older, 70s, but in general just men who have more income to waste. So they're happy to have a younger, prettier, um, Colombian woman that they is showing them some attention. I mean, I know one older guy who has basically blown his whole retirement, or not whole retirement, but let's just say a good amount of his retirement on a chick that I would say is maybe a 5 or a 6. And at this point, this guy is maybe about $15,000 in and hasn't even had sex with this woman yet because he thinks it's some type of she has some type of medical condition. But there's tons of stories just like this, where guys are coming out here and spending money and not getting much in return. So um, it is a major con that you have to deal with here in Medellin is simp culture. Another con and something else you'll have to deal with dating here in Medellin, Colombia, is going to be the scams. Now, what I mean by scams is basically just women saying or doing different things to try to get you to give them money. So, for example, one scam is, and I had this happen to a friend where basically he slept with a girl, was sleeping with her unprotected. She basically, said that she was pregnant, and it wasn't even, I would say a week or two after they've hooked up, but she sends him a picture of a pregnancy test, which is positive, which she ended up using from a friend or a family member, or just a picture that she had saved in her phone, and basically was saying, hey, I want to get I don't want the baby, basically give me 300 equivalent of 300 US dollars in cash so I can go get the abortion or whatever. So when my friend was like, hey, I'll go, and I'll go with you, and basically I'll pay for it with my card, she insisted on it having to be cash. So you have to deal with stuff like that. Another scam you get here is girls will say, oh, I need money for a babysitter, which in reality, if they have a kid, more than likely what they're going to do is leave that kid with a family member or a friend, or even leave them at home alone, if they're of a certain age. And basically once you see them, you give them that money and they just keep the money. It's just things like this. Women asking for money, this is a thing that's just super common here. um, you know Girls in general, hey, I need money for my sick dog, for my you know my sick grandma, or they're gonna send you a picture of an empty refrigerator. Oh, I don't have any food, I need money. It just never ends. Like, definitely, I've come to find out that Colombian women can almost be like the queens of coming up with excuses when it comes to needing money for something. And the bad thing is that the foreigners that are coming out here, they're giving it to them, and so this is why they keep asking for it. And another, I would say, I don't know if it's a scam, but another common thing you'll get here is women asking to borrow money. Now, it's one thing, don't ever let women borrow money here unless you're okay with not seeing that money again. But some of the amounts that they ask for, it can be absurd. I mean, it's almost, what could be someone's monthly salary here, like $200 or $150, whatever it is. So definitely don't let anyone borrow money. This is another common thing you'll hear here. I've had friends who've gone on dates, and girls have been like, hey, can you buy me an iPhone 15 or a 16, whatever? And this is the second date. So they will test you, just to see as far as what they can get away with. And, unfortunately, I've had friends who are younger who, are just coming to Colombia for the first time and go on a date, end up going to a mall, and then next thing you know, they go into a, a shopping mall, and then they're asking, the girls start asking for stuff and they just buy it. Now, I ain't gonna say no names. This friend knows who they are, but I mean, it's rookie mistakes. It's stuff that happens to all of us, but it is just, you know, things you gotta look out for. Here is what's gonna happen. As far as also other cons here, I mean, they're countless. So you just have to be very aware of women trying to, I would say, extract resources and money from you, just in different ways. I would say, be suspicious of everything as far as when it comes to women asking for money. So this next con is going to be neediness. I know if you're coming from a American or a European culture, you may be used to women being a little bit more, let's just say, independent or wanting their space. But here in Medellin, it definitely is the opposite. Now, recently, for an example, I've had a girl that I've been dating. I've took this girl on concerts, and concerts here are pretty expensive, not cheap. And I have done things for this girl, but as soon as she's gotten sick, and I haven't reached out to her multiple times through the day to basically ask if she's okay. And don't get me wrong, I did check in with her. Hey, how do you feel? Have you taken medicine? Whatever. But here, the expectation is that you're gonna, you know, throughout the whole day, basically, you're going to be checking up on them, seeing if they need anything. And this is what I mean by needy, because normally it's not something I'm used to. And I would say also too, this has happened with another relationship that I had in the beginning of the year with the girl that ended because I just was not checking on her enough. And ultimately she ended up we end up stopped talking. But when she was sick and not feeling well, the expectation is that I was gonna, you know, be calling to check up on her multiple times a day. You know, the women here, they don't really care if you're busy, what you have going on in your day, if you're working, whatever. They just care about that you're consistent as far as contacting them. That is another thing I think that's a con here, is that it's pretty much up to the man to do most of the communicating on top of everything else. You know, in the United States, I would say I've learned that if a woman doesn't reach out to you almost ever first at all, then she's just not that interested. But here in Colombia, it is a normal thing that the guy kind of initiates. Now, will women respond when you message them? Of course, but in general, the expectation is kind of when you want to talk, then you will reach out to them. But neediness, definitely, that is something that is I would say is a con here for dating in Medellin. So the next con here is sex work or pay for play. And there is a lot of that here in Medellin, Colombia. Given that some of the best looking women come from here, it's only rightfully so this will go hand in hand. Now, from what I believe or from what I've heard, is Medellin, Colombia is the webcam slash OnlyFans capital of Colombia. So you have a lot of that here. If you are looking for, a place where there's less of that, it definitely, as I said before, would be the more smaller cities like Pereira, Manizales. There's others, I just don't know all the names of them off the top of my head. Shoot, maybe even Cali. You might even have less of it, Cali, Colombia. But it is something that is very, very common here. You will run into women that, that's their job or their only source of income. So, if that's something that you're not into, then definitely Medellin is not going to be the place for you. But as I said, here it is something that is very common. Another thing that I that worries me, or that is always on my mind, is that, you know, I don't want to get a girl who is a working girl or a pro, uh, that's undercover essentially, where, and you do have this a lot, where there are girls who are selling box, and what they do is, you know, if they meet a guy, let's just say for example they meet you on a dating app, but they're a working girl, and you know, they'll ask you, what are you looking for? You may say, oh, okay, hey, I'm looking for something serious. So then they will, you know, shift and say, oh yeah, I want something serious too, but realistically they're a sex worker undercover, you know, or they're a working girl undercover, and they're finessing you, you know, to try to get that long-term stability, but at the same time they're still, you know, selling box on the side. So this is something that, you know, something I think about always. But like I said, I think the biggest form of vetting girls here is, if you are meeting them, how most Colombians meet girls, and that's through friends, because friends can kind of tell you, hey, you know, they've gone to school, they've worked in this job or this field for X amount of years, so it's a little bit easier to get sort of a background check, or let's just say like a whole facts on them, and you kind of know more about the girl versus, you know, just going off what they're saying. So that is something that does happen here quite frequently. Not saying all with all girls, but definitely that. Um, Going into the next con here is going to be something. I mean, I think anywhere you go in the world, this is just something you would have to deal with. But most women here are dealing with multiple men. You are not the only one, and it's for that reason that I say that long distance relationships don't work, or are just destined to fail if you are, you know, thinking about getting into one. If you're only here, you know, a couple months out of the year, or I would say even 6 months out of the year, you have to understand that a lot of these women, they want to go out, they want to have fun, they want to travel, and if you're not going to be here to provide that stuff for them, they are definitely going to find, you know, someone else who will. Now, does this apply to all women? No, it does not. But I'm just saying that it is something that is a reality, and that is something you shouldn't be naive about and think like, oh yeah, this girl is, you know, only mine. Like I said, she's more than likely dealing with multiple men to get whatever needs that she has fulfilled. And the unfortunate part, and this is going back into what I was saying as far as appearance and looks, is that a lot of these women's opportunities are only coming from based on how they look, or they're only going to get opportunities because of how they look. So, um, you know, if a guy comes and wants to take them out to dinner or wants to take them on vacations, this isn't something that's going to happen very frequently. So they're not going to say no. So it's another con, that you have to deal with here, is that just knowing that a lot of the women here are going to be dealing with multiple guys, and I would even say the more beautiful they are, it's I would say 3 times that. So definitely something else you need to know. And so in 2025, can you find decent, wholesome, you know, wifey material here in Medellin, Colombia? I think the answer to that is yes. It's just, it will take a lot of time, patience, perseverance, a lot of, you know, going through a lot of failure, before you finally find that one. But I will say this, that with Medellin, Colombia gaining more popularity every year, is bringing more foreigners into Medellin, Colombia every year. It is going to make it much harder as the women here start getting used to gringos, how gringos spend money. Um, let's just say, you know, for example, and what I mean by this is that a normal Colombian might say, hey, you know, I'll take you out to get coffee or a walk or ice cream or something, nothing too crazy. But then you get the gringo that comes here that will take her out to a fine dining restaurant in El Poblado, then maybe take her bowling, and then, the next day maybe take her paragliding or something like that. So, because for us things are a lot cheaper here, we just tend to do a little bit more than what the average Colombian guy does. So this does, shape how women, I would say, their expectations. Um, so with Medellin, Colombia becoming more overly saturated with foreigners, I think it is going to hinder or definitely kind of ruin the dating experience here in Medellin, Colombia. Now, like I said, I'm not saying that it will be impossible to come here and find a decent, good girl, because it is. It's just you're going to have to go through a lot more of these, like I said, cons, or just dealing with BS before you actually finally get to a good one. Now, I do have friends that have gotten burned out, and it can be very exhausting dealing with women here. And once you're here on a long term basis, you're not here for just 30 days or just 3 months. You also will, kind of, I would say, come to this realization or find out for yourself, if you're, just constantly having to deal with multiple women here, that it almost becomes like a job. It becomes very exhausting, where some friends have even just gone to other cities, or, like, for example, Guatape, and done something like glamping just to get away and, clear their mind and just kind of de-stress or whatever from, having to deal with the women here. So it can be a little exhausting when you're dealing with it on a long-term basis. But, to make this answer short, yes, I think you can find love and find good women here. It's just, just know that with everything I said in this video today, that you're going to be up against or dealing with a lot of that while you're here. Also, I do want to add to this that the dating experience does change based on, your ethnicity. Not so much that you're a foreigner, because that doesn't really have so much of a wow factor here in Medellin, Colombia, just because there's so many foreigners that come here. But, don't expect to come here and think, oh, because I'm from United States, or because I'm from Europe or wherever, that women are just going to be lining up for me, because they're not. Like I said, for some women, it may even be a turn off. And just because there's, so much sex tourism here in Medellin, Colombia, that a lot of women think that's what foreigners are coming here for. And then also, as well, a lot of women here are just tired of being kind of played and lied to, meaning guys will come here and say, oh yeah, I'm planning on living here. I'm, basically just, or, I'm here for 3 months, and then they're only here for a weekend, or a couple weeks, and then they get what they want, sex from a woman, and then they bounce. So what I'm saying by the dating experience changes based on, where you're from, meaning primarily ethnicity. Um, I'm only speaking mainly off my experience and experiences I've seen of other people or friends, more so. But, if you are a black male or mixed, mixed race, black male, it tends, I won't say that it's harder, but there are a lot of Afro-Colombians here, so we're not really exotic. Can you win? Can you still get dates and get women here? Of course, yes, you can. There's a lot of women here who like black men, but I have not seen the amount of interest in black men or colored men here as I've seen in white and Asian men. In general, I mean, this is something you guys should all know in general, that white men tend to do well as far as the dating marketplace almost anywhere in the world that they go. But I'm not saying this is a knock, to anybody of any other ethnicity. I'm just saying that you're not very exotic when you come here. So versus like say as a black man, if you go to a Poland or a Sweden, you know, where you're the complete opposite of what they see all the time. So um, that dating experience can change. One thing that I have noticed here, and I think this is just from everybody. Well, the few examples I can go off of, I have seen Latin American women who are not prostitutes literally break their neck for white friends when I'm walking with them. But if I'm walking by myself or I'm in a mall or something, let's just say I'm going out to do code approach, um, the eye contact is very minimal to none, which is one of the things that do suck about here is that women here don't really show a lot of clear signs of interest when you're out. Um, I would just say this from my personal experience. I've seen white friends, yeah, no, they definitely, or Asian guys, yeah, they get very very clear signs of you know, a woman looking at them multiple times or essentially giving them good indicators of interest. But um, for the most part, I don't see it happening a lot for colored men or men of let's just say brown ethnicity. So I'm gonna say it's just something that in general, you know, is going you're gonna notice when you get here. So that's it for this video. Guys, please do me a favor. If you do find this information helpful or informative, definitely drop a comment. These help me not only stay motivated, but also create more content based off of things that you guys say in the comments. Also, of course, like and subscribe. And definitely in this year, I plan to produce more content or videos. I'm also going to be doing a little bit more traveling. In a couple weeks here, I'm going to be in Brazil, so in Rio de Janeiro. So I plan on kind of doing a comparison of Brazilian women. I'm only going to be there a week, but I plan on documenting that and kind of comparing Brazilian women to Colombian women and making a video on that to let you guys know, just in case any of my viewers may as well be interested in going to Brazil. So until the next one, peace.